Recently, I was at a large shopping centre, always a torture, and as I exited the gauntlet of tweenies, grumpy parents, and garish specialty shops, I approached the scary entrance to the car park. I saw a young man in his mid-twenties leaning against the wall. He was dressed like a New York subway gangster in baggy FUBU gear, a blue bandana low over his eyes, and a cap. He looked tough and dangerous as he tilted his head and peered at me from beneath the bandana. His eyes were fixed on me, and I couldn't read his expression. I surmised that he was intent on mugging me. I kept walking, hypervigilant, ready to defend myself, toward my potential mugger, and in my head, repeating a calming mantra. Please don't stab me, please don't stab me, please don't stab me. He then stepped out in front of me, his arms wide. Then his hardened, angry face cracked into a wide smile as he suddenly bear-hugged me. Stefan! It's me, Tommy! I was relieved that my life had been spared. Then the recognition came crashing down on me. I remembered Tommy from my first job in youth detention. He jogged my memory as he told me how much impact I had had in his life, and how the work we did with him in youth detention continues to help him now. Remember that time you picked me up? I did remember. Tommy was 16 at the time, skinny as a rake and a real challenge. His behaviour was erratic, hyperactive and violent. He hated bedtime. Mind you, bedtime in the centre meant being locked in a small room from 8 p.m. until 8 a.m. the next morning, so it was understandable. One night he refused to go into his room at lockdown time. He had been threatening staff, upturning furniture, and was now on a couch surrounded by tentative youth workers, prepared for battle. In the past, this had often led to Tommy attempting to assault staff and being physically restrained and contained. Tommy was yelling, "Just try it, you dogs! If you want me to go to my room, you'll have to fucking carry me." I'm not sure what made me do what I did next. A kind of parental instinct, I guess. But before we initiated an emergency response, which at the time we were prone to do, I spoke to Tommy with a calm voice. Really? You know, my own little boy loves to be carried to bed too. Tommy looked at me quizzically. I said, he does, you know. I pick him up. Like this, I'll show you. And I simply cradled him in my arms and picked him up. I felt him relax and regress like into a toddler, whilst my co-workers prepared for the violent outburst. But that did not happen. And you know what else? Then I rock him, like this, I said. And I literally rocked Tommy in my arms. Fortunately, he was light as a feather. And then I carry him to bed, I said. And with that, I carried him into his room and laid him on his bed, my co-worker following. Tommy kept his eyes closed. I put a blanket on him and said, "Night-night, Tommy." To which he responded in a little child's voice, "Night-night." My co-worker and I exited, shut the door, and Tommy slept soundly to the morning. Whilst I did receive a little criticism over the incident, shouldn't be carrying kids, touch policies, putting myself at risk, and so on, I now know that instinctively I had stumbled on the right approach, and that it worked because unknowingly I had implemented a trauma and attachment response to Tommy that night. Apart from being what must have been an awful experience anyway, being locked in a room may also have been a traumatic trigger for Tommy. After learning trauma-informed theory and approaches, I now know that a triggered person actually just needs soothing, safety, and a sense of connection with another human, rather than negotiation and complex instruction. I had allowed him the safety to regress, and used the rhythm of a rocking motion to settle his fight-flight response. The approach had transformed his room from a threatening trigger to a comforting environment. What often strikes me when running into grown-up kids that I had worked with is the surprising significance of our interactions, no matter how we as youth workers might perceive them. It serves as a reminder to pay attention to everything we do and everything we say, because it may stay with that person forever. It may help or hinder or even save a life. Sometimes we might take a chance, take a good guess on the best approach to a tricky situation, but our intention must always be to facilitate safety and healing. And the more informed we are, the less guessing we have to do.